the drug culture at Burning Man. And why does the drug culture cultivate despair? Well, look at Joe Rogan. Look at like the only way to overcome your situation is to go inside yourself, and everything is fractals, and there are these gestures, and they're helping you evolve. And frankly, these are just people who are escaping back to the womb. These are goddess worshippers, or at least they become goddess worshippers. They become tree worshippers, a lot of them. They worship their groups. They worship their group identity. A lot of people who get into cocaine, I don't know why I'm drawing all these drugs. People who get involved in Molly or cocaine, they end up in these different groups. They end up with the expectations of their peers. They become weakened. They become like the guilds in the time of Jezebel. And when you care more about the people around you, you're not connecting to God. So you fear man more than you fear God. And when you fear God, it's a respectful fear. You know, it's like respecting your father. It's like fearing your father if you have a loving father. You know, it's a healthy type of fear. Jezebel, it's all about you want to be part of the group, don't you? You don't want to be a social outcast, do you? You know? Don't you like the money? Don't you like the cars? Don't you like the women? You know, haven't I provided all this stuff for you? And people get into it. They have the little statue. They have their little Shiva doll. They do it for a little while because it's just goofy. You know, they think of it as harmless. But eventually, there's a tax. A tax, as in like they get attacked, and then a tax, like a tax on your life. All right. So now we're gonna do the top of the tree. And it's just fun. It's just a fun way to do this, like talking about the bottom of the tree, where like the last time we started the opposite way. So how does that even happen? How do these people, like, how does Bill Hicks end up falling for Jezebel? Well, it's very easy, especially where lust is involved. A lonely man looking to, looking to be acknowledged, a lonely man looking to feel like somebody cares for him, looking like why do men go to strip clubs? Sometimes it's because they want to see naked bodies, but sometimes they're just sitting there and they just want somebody to talk to them. They want to feel connected. And yes, I'm talking from personal experience. Sometimes a person will go to a strip club and it's just because it's been a long time since they've had the touch of a woman, right? And so if there's a lot of these Jezebels out there, and that's where they come from, is they know that about men, and they know that that's their weakness. How do they turn men away from the one true God? And hopefully a lot of you guys remember this from the last time. There's three main branches here. But the main two that we're concerned with are doubt, which we talked about loosely 10 minutes ago. Doubt and confusion. And the more I talk about this, I trust that you're seeing it everywhere in your life and you can't unsee it. The transgender giant who walked into the GameStop, that person is under the spirit of confusion, and they're spreading the spirit of confusion, right? The GameStop employee who tried to handle the situation, if they had submitted, right, what feeling would they have come away with, besides giggling and all that type of stuff? If a child was in that GameStop, or if a child was watching that video, the spirit of confusion is this haze, this fog that blankets that entire situation. So Jezebel usually won't show up. She won't operate unless she knows that there are willing subjects who will come under her using these weapons. Doubt, first of all, to drive a wedge, she drives a wedge down into the man, and that creates a split self. This is why doubt manifests in your life. Doubt is not loving people trying to get you to see it their way. Doubt is manipulation trying to split you in two, the same way that the Joker did in our Jester stream. That's the purpose of doubt. And if you don't confront doubt, doubt will continue to show up until you address it, until you start directing your prayers at doubt. And here's what happens when you don't address doubt. When you, let's say you start off like this, confident, right? The seed of doubt is planted, and it's not that you immediately cave, but the next day your shoulders are slouching just a little bit. You're still standing tall, but you've got that seed of doubt in your mind. Now that doubt is planted, Jezebel will come around and make sure that you're hanging your head and your arms are hanging down, and she's right. She knows what's best for you, and you shouldn't make the decisions. Let her make the decisions because, you're always wrong. And now before you know it, and Jezebel has you in this position, you're just prone. You're just bent over, and she's going to hit you over the head with a chair. The full-on assault is going to come at this point. Boom, you're done. It's not even about this or this, and you've seen men at this position. It's all about this guy right here. This is why you cannot tolerate doubt in your life. Because abusers and manipulators take advantage of this moment right here. If they see that they can get this, they go all in. Once they see this, they go all in. And it becomes a race to the finish line to own you as a slave. And frankly, this is one reason why people find Owen Benjamin sexy right now, is because they see this about him. They see that he doesn't like this. That's one of the main reasons. But he doesn't know that. I don't think he knows that's one of the things that's going on. But we can go further too, right? Doubt. People who are in doubt are like this. They're just a mess. They don't know what these forces are. They know there are these women. They know that there are these people around them who care about them. But they don't understand that they're just being used and there's no actual loyalty. A man who's under doubt thinks about loyalty like the people around Joe Rogan. They think about love, but it's a false sense of love. It's a false love of Lucifer. They think about acceptance. But Jesus' point of view is that you tolerated Jezebel. And you'll notice, too, that Jezebel will actually use the word tolerance to inject doubt into people's life. All right, confusion we don't have to talk about so much, but we will anyways, for how people get into that, especially if they're already under doubt. Confusion is like the fog of war, And actually, let me back that up. The way to think about confusion, I think the best analogy I've come up with recently is the floor plan of your favorite movie theater. Let me see. Okay, so the last time that you went to a play or a movie theater, these are the four walls. This is the projector screen, right? Actually, let's look at the Aurora shooting as a perfect example. That guy came in with a gun, and they actually used that to create fear in the public of don't go out anymore, stay at home, because there are there are people who will come into the movie theater and shoot into the crowd, right? I'm sorry this is so graphic, but this is what the theater looks like. These are the people who are watching the movie. Okay? So the spirit of confusion is the darkness and the smoke. There's a fire. This is really grim. This is such a terrible situation. But these people are in the dark. They're watching this simulated reality on the screen, right? They're watching this Hollywood crap. They're watching the Joker and the Dark Knight, right? And they're already lost. They're already in the Matrix. They're already in this simulation. And they're under confusion. A lot of gay men are confused. A lot of transgenders, I think some of us would say they're all confused. That confusion spreads to all areas of their life. Now, this room has one exit that's got a sign that says exit. The other one is actually, it's locked, but it doesn't matter anyways because this sign is very dim, right? If people go to this part of the wall or 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 this part of the wall, they're not going to get out. There's only one way out of their hopeless situation. If they're under a state of confusion, like a bee in a garden trap, these people are just going to hopelessly be bumping into each other. They're going to be bumping into the wall. They're going to be going everywhere in a fog of confusion except the one place that they need to go. And it's contagious. It spreads to all areas of your life will be marked by confusion. And this is where Jezebel gets her best work done, because these people are willing slaves who have nothing better to do. So Jimmy Kimmel, if you look at Jimmy Kimmel and how he gets emotional and he cries, and he's up there anytime they have a message for him. Stephen Colbert, right? Let's just go ahead and let's just completely delete this door because it's not even there. They don't even want it anymore. This is one of the problems we have, is people out of apathy, out of complacency, these people they got rid of that door. They don't want it. They like their confusion. They've submitted to their confusion. They're trapped in that room. Corinthians. So likewise, yea, except ye utter by the tongue words easy to be understood, how shall it be known what is spoken? For ye shall speak into the air. Is this the actual floor plan of Aurora? Oh my gosh, Enzo, that would be really dark if I did that. I don't even know why I mentioned the Aurora. It's just the fact that there was actual fog, like smoke bombs and stuff. That's why I mentioned it and how it ties to the bigger theme of the Joker. Paul is here. Paul says, "Hey Jesse, just listen to your Jester stream. Thanks for the shout out. I can give you access to our talk about the Jesters easily." Yes, that would be awesome. I do want that. The DMT Jesters are a perfect symbol for confusion. So people who get into the drug culture, they're also like a moviegoer in this theater looking for the exit. But it's up to them to actually want to find the exit sign. And most of them don't. Again, because of the spiritual mechanics that when you lean close to the fire, you typically fall in. And like one of the main questions is, what do you fear? The approval of other men, or whether you are doing what God wants? And Jezebel, again, takes advantage of that. I hope that gives you a proper, at least it gives you a place to start when it comes to doubt and confusion. And so if you didn't connect to what I was doing there, because the drawing kind of sucked, This is the branch of the tree, right? Connecting to the trunk. And the branch is important because it leads to the smaller branches and the twigs and the leaves. The branches eventually lead to the fruit. And in the case of Jezebel, it's all bad fruit. I've yet to draw a diagram for the top of the tree like that I really like. It's best if you just fill it in yourself, but we can talk about some of it. Bad fruit. So doubt and confusion leads to bad fruit. And the spirit of Jezebel will take over men and women and will actually encourage bad fruit. The spirit knows what it's doing. The person under that spirit might not know what's going on. They're like a remote control car, and it's their willpower itself that is being manipulated. So a lot of times, you could say it's their emotions that are being controlled. I find with Jezebel, it actually comes down to their willpower, and it's actually a battle sometimes on the tongue itself. What you do with your tongue determines whether you do good or evil. If you speak of one thing or speak of another thing. False idols, a lot of that exists on the tongue. Okay, so doubt and confusion lead to bad fruit, and let me tell you the challenge I have for constructing my illustration for the top of the tree. There's actually a couple of other branches that I leave out because they're not as signature as doubt, as confusion, and that would be fear. Fear in general is that low vibrational energy that you have when you don't want to leave your house, when you don't want to speak up. One of the biggest fears that people have is a fear of being isolated by their peers. Jezebel will take advantage of that. Another one is charm. So this is where she will compliment you. This is where she will actually seduce you. But it's all just a mock show. It's all because she wants to bring you under her control. Many spirits have this. That's why we don't talk about it. But without charm, Jezebel probably would not get very far. So that's something to look for too, is that Jezebel is simultaneously trying to balance her charm with despair. It doesn't really fit, but that's exactly where so many men are, is they have been charmed into thinking that they are Jezebel's white knight, that they are Jezebel's hero. So men will be seduced. Jezebel will bend their ear. She'll talk about virtue. She'll talk about values. She'll say, Jesse is so evil. I can't believe what he did. You're so much better than him. Jesse is bad. You're good. I like how you stand up for us. I like how you actually came to our side. You are such a good person. They play into your idea of good. They play into your idea of subjective goodness all the time. A lot of it comes down into like environmentalism, or whether you're tolerant of other religions. And many men will take her call. Many men will take her seductions because they really don't have that much going on, and because nobody else is telling them that they're important. Nobody else is telling them that they're a hero. So this is a fantasy that they want to live in, and because they're under doubt, because they're under confusion, and they're so conflicted, men choose to live in this fantastical world like they choose to live in a video game. And Jezebel is surrounded, in Kings, she's surrounded by eunuchs. She's ultimately destroyed by eunuchs. And that's important. These men they've had their manhood stolen from them. They started as heroes, and then they become eunuchs. Because Jezebel just charms people and then she gets them to submit, these eunuchs ultimately figure out what's going on because they get sick of it. It becomes played out. And there's a man named Jehu, which actually is its own spirit. I haven't figured it out yet. Jehu and the eunuchs are ultimately the destruction of the physical Jezebel. Jehu calls up to them on the balcony, and he says, "Whoever is with me, throw down Jezebel." And because Jezebel was played out, because they're so sick of Jezebel and they can see through her, the men who came under doubt, who came under her charm, they just picked her up and they threw her to be trampled on horses. That's right there in the Bible, in Kings. Jehu, the death of Jezebel. But it didn't start off that way. These people didn't want to be eunuchs when they started. They didn't want to be sexually confused. It started off with these loving little whispers in their ear that they were a better person. So if you care about the people around you and what they think about you, and you're not connecting with God, if you're not connecting with the higher power, you're not actively seeking the Bible and these parables, you will easily be swayed by charm into a deception that will lead to dangerous, far more dangerous weapons. So if a person comes around and you know they're capable of this doubt thing in the first place, why would you stick around? If you see them do that to other people and you realize that they're surrounded by people with this same affliction, why would you choose to be around that person? That's the big question here. Is it a coincidence at that point that everybody has been weakened and then ends up full of despair and depression? Or is it the result of this false hero complex? So right here is one of the main connectors for Jezebel and another spirit called Python. Because Jezebel needs false heroes, she also needs... Guess what I'm going to say? This is a requirement. False teaching. Because Jezebel needs false heroes to save her, she feeds on false teaching. She feeds on false teachers. If there weren't these seducing Jezebel spirits, it'd be a difficult question to ask and to answer. How many false teachers would we have in the world? There would still be a lot of false teachers, but Jezebel actively recruits them. Jezebel actively encourages them and actively pits them against the true men of God. Jezebel likes to have power for the sake of power, so she finds gurus. She finds people who are willing to twist and pervert the teaching of the Bible. She finds people who are willing to reject and rebel against the Bible, and she finds false platforms in which to promote them. It'll be, well, he's a better person. Did you see how he treated that woman in that situation? He cared about her feelings, right? That woman thought she was a goddess, and he went along with it. He was actually nice. He's being considerate to that goddess, right? False teaching is not, it's not Jezebel's fault. but she strengthens false teaching. She helps to cement it in place. So let's say you have an understanding of at least part of the Jezebel tree. We didn't really talk about prostitution and fornication and all the bad fruit. We left it as kind of just your imagination to hold it up there. So the image of the Jezebel tree now looks like this. It's a bad one. It's a bad Jezebel tree. You've got the bad fruit up at the top, and now, because of this false hero connection right here, now imagine that Python is dangling down. You've actually got a reflection of the Garden of Eden right here. When you deal with Jezebel and this Python, you basically have something that's like it's an echo of Eve and the serpent, Satan. You know, you've got the Jezebel tree and the spirit of Python. And Python we could talk about at length. You know, he's a constricting spirit. He suffocates the life breath of the Holy Spirit out of the church. Psychic energy is a signature of Python. And we will go into that spirit as it applies to ancient Greece, Plato, Aristotle, philosophy, the Temple of Delphi. I feel like that deserves its own video series, but you should know that Jezebel and Python feed into each other. How do they feed into each other? False hero worship. False heroes are encouraged to become false teachers. Is that person really a hero? If they're not fully realized, if they have methods of control based on other people, based on carnality, based on submitting to their peer groups, based on wanting to be loved and accepted, they still have a lot of stuff to work through. A lot of false teachers, you can see straight through them because of their insecurities. They'll go out in front of their camera, and every day they'll be on camera just trying to convince you how confident they are, and you can just see straight through it. And they need Jezebel. There's also false piety that comes with it. I find that it's very difficult for a false teacher to maintain his audience without false piety. How could you spread a false doctrine unless you were willing to have that image of being pious? So these people are marked by false piety. They'll hold over you how they're nice and how you aren't nice. Politeness is a mark of a lot of false teachers for this reason. They look like your grandson or your cousin or your nephew. And you're like, why do so many people listen to him? Because he's nice, because he's polite. And then also, false teachers, Python will also have false humility. The same thing. How can you spread a false doctrine unless you always talk about how humble you are? I know you guys see that everywhere. People who talk about how humble they are. Oh, I'm so humble. Jezebel loves it too. Jezebel is all into that. And there's a bunch of other false, we could name false strength. I think that really gets to the heart of it. How would Jezebel be able to turn somebody who is actually strong over to Ahab? How would she be able to turn them over to Python if they actually had inner strength? So we could actually say that this is like the weak point. This is where an Ahab becomes a Python, is they submit to Jezebel, they submit to confusion and doubt. They're convinced through her charm that they are strong, that they are good people, that they are pious, that they are humble. But ultimately, this is the lie that they're telling themselves, ultimately, while suffering from despair. Not only suffering from despair, these people, I find, they willingly eat and feed on despair. If that wasn't in common with Jezebel, they wouldn't be in the relationship. They would leave, right? Like, they would be able to see through it. So a lot of these people, you have to figure out how to isolate despair. Because here's Jezebel, and it's not always a woman. She looks like a Christmas tree. She always looks like a Christmas tree. Remember this when you go out in the public. Jezebel looks like a Christmas tree. Here's Jezebel. Here's Ahab. Of course, he's slouched over. Jezebel came into Ahab's room, and he was under despair because Naboth wouldn't give him his vineyard. So Jezebel said, "Hey, we have something in common. Just give me your power, give me your influence, and I will get Naboth's vineyard for you." So that wouldn't have happened. This relationship could not have existed. And this is what actually, this is their signature. Because what you might ask is, well, why does this story come along in the middle of the Old Testament? And why does so much of it mirror Adam and Eve? And there's a very basic answer for that. You've got Adam and Eve up here,